Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. With Season 2 Reloaded coming up and presumably another meta update inbound, today I wanted to go through and take a look at the top 10 best weapons in Warzone, rank them from number 10 to 1, so we have a good general idea of what to look out for when the patch notes drop and we see various different weapon nerfs and buffs and all sorts of stuff like that. Ideally, you see a lot of these top 10 weapons shifted around a little bit, so we're not just playing the same meta over and over and over again like we did for the first part of, Season 1 and everything, where it was just XM4 and Jackal every single game, right? So that said, diving right in at number 10, we've got the PP919, a very serviceable SMG. Super reliable, super easy. This is one of those weapons that you can really pick up, whether it's ground loot or it could even be somebody else's loadout, and you're probably going to have a good time with it just because it's so easy, it's so straightforward. Only reason it's number 10 and not a little bit higher up on the list is that its damage drop off is a bit more noticeable than some other subs, but even then it's still so easy that the realistic TTK, when you factor in accuracy and everything, it's still going to be super competitive. So here, first up, I go for just the basic suppressor. Keeps me off the radar, of course. We got the long barrel on here. I use this on the vast majority of my SMGs to extend that damage range out. In this case, we're just over 17 meters. That's fantastic there before it starts to drop off a bit more harsh, and a 540 velocity works fine for the areas that we're going to be fighting in. I really like ergonomic rear grip on a lot of my subs personally because I do a lot of sliding in my gameplay. I'm constantly sliding in and out of doorways, around corners, slide canceling in general. So in the close range fights, I find that to be super valuable. Other players might want a little bit of a mix of ADS and sprint to fire, so commando would work well, or just ADS. Quick draw would work well, but if you want a lot of slide to fire benefits and then some ADS as well, I find ergonomic to be a really good option there. Balanced stock, just better movement across the board. General strafe, general movement, ADS strafe just makes it more aggressive. And then lastly, recoil springs. Why not? It's free control. You don't really have a need for a laser or a magazine here. I like the iron sights, so why not get some free recoil? The PP919 feels fantastic. I'd love to see this thing get buffed a little bit though, and it could really be a true top tier contender. Next up at number 9, I've got the Krig. I personally really love the feel of this thing, especially for some resurgence gameplay. I find it to be super consistent. The TTK here is very competitive throughout, whether you're fighting at 40, 50, 60, 70 meters. It just feels very aggressive at the same time as well. So this is definitely a top tier choice for me. I know some people don't love the control as much as others. I think it's definitely a feel thing. If you spend some time getting used to the gun, you're gonna obviously find more success with it. But that said, for a basic 5 attachment setup here, I like the 2x optic. I like the 3x optic as well. I go back and forth with those, as I'm sure you guys know if you're active viewers here on the channel. But if there's a different optic you like, Kepler red dot, KNS red dot, whatever the case is, feel free to go ahead and run that. If you don't like the control, go for the compensator here. It's not like you're missing out much not using a suppressor, other than of course just showing on the radar. So if that's super valuable to you, feel free to run the suppressor. But if you really want that control, you want to be maximum accurate there, go ahead, run the compensator. That'll help out with some vertical control. I like reinforced here with this. You get over a 55 meter effective damage range and a 978 velocity. Those are both phenomenal stats there. Vertical foregrip for the max horizontal control, so just makes the weapon a whole lot more predictable here. Then extended 2 is going to be a 70 round mag. That works fine for all squad sizes. Of course, if you wanted to upgrade to gunfighter here, throwing on ergonomic or commando could be viable. Balanced stock I think would be a fantastic choice here. Recoil springs as well if you want even more control. Then if that's the case, you might be able to switch over to the suppressor because you're getting control elsewhere, right? So definitely a couple of ways to build this out. It's going to be very reliable in all of them though. And number 8, I've got the Goblin. This is the TTK beast of the assault rifle category. It has the best potential TTK in the game essentially. However, that's only a potential TTK because in game, to achieve that crazy fast time to kill, you have to be spamming basically at max fire rate, and you have to be able to stay accurate at the same time. And it being a semi-auto gun inherently means it's got a much higher skill gap than basically every other weapon on the list here today. So if it was full auto and it had that kind of TTK, it probably would have been nerfed like 4 weeks ago. But nonetheless, its high skill gap is what limits it at the 8th spot. In theory, if you are just a master at semi-auto guns, this is a 1, 2, 3 spot in that reality, right? But here, first up, we list 3 times. Again, just a matter of preference. I like this a lot on my semi-auto guns. Suppressor to keep me off the radar. If you're spamming this a ton and you're not comfortable with the control, again, feel free to run the compensator there. Reinforced barrel I like a lot here because it gives us almost a 55 meter effective damage range and a 943 velocity, so that's going to be feeling super consistent there. Extended 250 rounds works fine again for all squad sizes, and it being semi-auto, it means you're gonna choose how fast you burn through those 50 rounds. I do use rapid fire on here because this only hurts the control and not the range and the velocity like it does on full auto guns, so you get an even better potential TTK by throwing this on and upping that fire rate to 513. So definitely a solid 5 attachment build yet again. If once more, if you really wanted to upgrade to gunfighter using an underbarrel, like in this case, you know, lightweight could be decent for the aiming auto sway. That's important on a semi-auto gun. Again, with an ergonomic rear grip, a balanced stock could make this thing much more versatile as well if you wanted. Following that, at number 7, I've got the LR762, just the most dependable sniper in the game for me personally. I think a lot of people lean this way as well. While there are some infinite one-shot range snipers from like MW3, the Moors, the Cat, etc., those have just strange feel to them because they are MW3 guns. Black Ops 6 weapons are designed to perform and feel a little bit more consistent and reliable just outright. So the LR762 being able to one-shot out to a pretty, you know, generous range, 80 plus meters, is going to be perfectly viable for a lot of the fights you're going to get into when you're fighting at 100 meters, 110 meters. Even with a sniper, you're going to be hard pressed to consistently land those one-shot headshots. It's like that's a much higher skill gap than what most players are ever going to be comfortable, you know, engaging with. So this one's going to be much more realistic for the broad, you know, player base, in my opinion here. I do again go just for the basic suppressor. Staying off the minimap doesn't hurt anything, so why not, right? I like the default sniper scope on here too. I think the zoom is fine and everything clean, little reticle there. Long barrel is the most important part of this setup. 85 meter one-shot range for the one-shot headshot, at least with this on here. That's fantastic. 85 meters is going to work pretty much for every realistic fight you want to take. Extended one here is what I personally lean towards. I know some players like the faster ADS of like Fast Mag 2. That'll get you down to a 511 as opposed to a 525 or 535 rather with extended one. So if you're okay with having less ammo and having to reload more, go for that. That's certainly a play style that I know a lot of players enjoy. Quick draw rear grip here for the faster ADS. That's with that 535 on there, so that's pretty important there. And then also overpressured ammo ups our velocity up to 1058, so that's feeling pretty consistent there. You won't have to worry too much about bullet drop or bullet lead. Like I said, it's just a very reliable sniper, and that works great for big map or resurgence. And by the way, as we are breaking down all the weapons and setups here today, quick reminder, if you are new to the channel or perhaps you have not already subscribed, every single day this is the place to be to stay up to date with quite literally everything going on in COD, whether it's news, updates, patch notes, or meta breakdowns like this. It's all right here, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and help us get one step closer to surpassing 1 million subscribers. Also, if you enjoy this video and or the information, a like rating is always seriously appreciated as well. Much love to everyone who takes the time to do so. Now, number 6, I've got the AMES. This is a low recoil rifle that is really benefiting from the fact that it's so laser accurate. Its damage is not like insane over the longer ranges especially, but because this thing is a laser beam, you're gonna have a very competitive TTK throughout. It also is a very aggressive rifle as well, so you could run and gun with this thing. You could use it more for just long range exclusively if you wanted to. Whatever your play style is, this honestly has a place in it, in my opinion. So here again for the optic, simply a matter of preference, I'm going for the Willis 3 times. Basic suppressor keeps me off the radar. Once more, if you really want that extra control, the compensator is never a bad choice if you're okay with showing up on the radar there. Reinforced barrel yet again, we get a 56 meter basically effective damage range there, a 931 velocity. Those numbers will be sufficient for the majority of the fights you want to take with this thing. I like Ranger foregrip on here, helps out a little bit with sprinting movement speed. As mentioned, this being a pretty aggressive rifle sort of plays into that a little bit more, and you still get some horizontal control back out of this as well, so that's a win-win in my book. And then lastly, extended 2, a 60 rounder. You do have a 750 RPM, so you'll still burn through ammo pretty quick with this, but it's going to be sufficient for all squad sizes, especially when you are laser accurate like you can be with this thing. Once more, if you wanted to upgrade to gunfighter, an ergonomic or a commando grip, a balanced stock, recoil springs, all going to be super valuable here as well. Next up at number 5, I've got the PPSH. This thing has a phenomenal close range TTK, has a really good range as well, pretty minimal drop-offs when you get to its second and its third damage ranges, so it's feeling really good as an SMG. Only reason it's not a little bit higher on this list is that its ADS and its slide to fire speeds, its sprint to fire, you're never going to really optimize all of them. You can attack 1 or 2 of them here and there, but with the attachment setup on this, having the stocks and the rear grips combined into one basically, where you don't get that extra option, does limit you some on what you want to focus on. Like for me personally, I go for the quick draw stock because I want that fast ADS because I'm doing that a lot in my gunfights. Other players though might really value something like ergonomic, which has the better slide to fire and aim walking speed, but if you have the faster slide to fire, then you have a slower ADS, or if you have the balanced stock, you have the slower ADS but a faster sprint to fire. So there's different ways to go about building this, especially with the stock here being probably the most important attachment category depending on your play style, but it is something that does limit this a tad bit more than some other SMGs. Like I said though, I like quick draw a lot on here. Extended 2 gonna be pretty straightforward. 55, you're gonna burn through ammo. This thing's got a 952 RPM. Really, ideally, we'd have like a 60, a 70 round mag here, but 55 is what you got to work with, and it gets the job done. Ranger foregrip, again, some mobility, some control, win-win. Long barrel extends our damage range out to over 20 meters, which is phenomenal for an SMG. 530 velocity works just fine there too. And then if you really want control, go for the compensator. If you simply want to stay off the radar in the close range, go for the suppressor. I think, with this, especially if you're using the irons, control here is always going to be a good thing to go after. So I really like the feel of this thing. It's just a little bit more awkward than some other SMGs because of the attachment layout. Now, just missed in that top 3 at the number 4 spot here, I've got the Cypher. This thing is very close to being in that top 3 though, I will say. It's just kind of a do-it-all rifle. If you want to use this as sniper support for like the mid-range, it's fantastic there. There are some great iron sight builds. If you want to use this for mid to long range as like a standard primary, it's fantastic there too. It is aggressive, it's easy to use. I really enjoy the feel of this thing just across the board here. This is more of a mid to long range base build, so I go for the Kepler red dot. I like this, the 2 times, the 3 times. Again, it's all preference at the end of the day. Suppressor keeps me off the radar. Long barrel in this case, extending our range at the 56 meters. With reinforced, we're at 48. That's still solid, and the velocity does go up to 972. So if you want to rock that instead, feel free to do so. Ranger foregrip on here, again, because it's relatively easy to use. We don't have to go all in on control, and we can get some better mobility back out of that. And then extended 2 here is going to be 60, and with a 561 RPM, that's going to be just fine there. If again you wanted to upgrade to gunfighter, ergonomic rear grip, commando rear grip, a stock balance is going to work here. Overpressured or recoil springs would work well in this case too, especially if you want to pair that with the long barrel. If you wanted to go for more of a sniper support, I'd simply just drop the optic and throw on the balanced stock instead, and you're good to go there. Pair this with an LR762 or a car or a cat or whatever the case is there. This thing is incredibly versatile. Now at number 3, I've got the KSV, rhyming accidentally there. This thing is just a super aggressive but also super versatile SMG as well. It's been buffed quite a few times recently here to start season 2. I just love the feel of this thing. You could use this with 5 attachments or 8 attachments, and it's going to be phenomenal as a true SMG secondary or a sniper support here. So with just a basic 5 attachment setup, suppressor staying off the radar, of course. Long barrel, just under a 20 meter effective damage range. A 575 velocity works just fine there. Ranger foregrip on here yet again. Extended 2 is going to be 50, and with this RPM 800, it'll work. It's still going to go through ammo decently quick, but this thing's also going to knock enemies decently quick as well, right? And then I like ergonomic rear grip on here yet again. Same reasons as before, and especially for an SMG, which you're always playing up close with, slide to fire and ADS are pretty important for my style of play here. If you wanted to upgrade to 8 attachments, I know not everyone's a huge fan of the iron sights, so throwing on a red dot of some sort could be pretty valuable there. A balanced stock, and then again, recoil springs or overpressured. I don't find as much value with these on an SMG as I do rifles, but free recoil here is always a good choice as well. But yeah, the KSV is feeling fantastic right now. And number 2, we got to go the C9. This thing is checking all the right boxes, quite frankly, for the SMGs. It is aggressive, it kills quick, it is easy to use, it's got great range. This thing is doing everything right, basically. The setup here, not super unique. It's one that we've covered several times in the past. I like the compensator on this one a lot, just because when I'm this accurate with a gun that's this strong, I feel like I'm melting everyone in every single gunfight, right? Ranger foregrip, some control, some mobility on there. Extended 2 of 50 with the 732 RPM is going to work fine for all squad sizes. Then I double up here. I go for ergonomic rear grip, and I go for the balanced stock in this case. So we are super aggressive, super versatile, and agile at the same time. The C9 is just so complementary of so many different weapons in this game. If you want to pair it with a rifle, a battle rifle, an LMG, a sniper, it's going to work so good for all those situations. And then lastly, at number 1, I've got the Model L. This is by far the most reliable and consistent rifle in my opinion. It doesn't have like the true number 1 TTK in any specific situation. It's just so competitive throughout and so easy to use that realistically it ends up being the most consistent across the board, pretty much regardless of your skill level here, right? So for the optic, I go for the Jason 2 times. If you want to go for a Kepler red dot 3 times, go for it yet again. Suppressor keeps me off the radar, of course. Reinforced barrel here, 71 meter effective damage range with just reinforced. That is so good. Up over 1,000 velocity as well. The base stats of the Model L are insane. Vertical foregrip for the max horizontal control, making this thing a lot more predictable. Then extended 2 with a 600 rate of fire. It was 50 rounds. That's going to be just fine for every single squad size yet again. If you wanted to go overboard and go for gunfighter, again, balanced stock, recoil springs, throwing on an ergonomic or commando, going to benefit you here as well. You could even trade over to a compensator if you wanted to for even better control just on the 5 attachment setup. Regardless though, the Model L is going to feel insanely easy and insanely consistent, and that said, those are the current top 10 best weapons in Warzone as it stands. Very curious to see how these weapons in specific are, you know, attacked with Season 2 Reloaded in the patch notes there. We'll have to see how much of this actually changes after the update. You guys know I'll have you covered with all the need-to-know details there, so stay tuned for that alongside everything else going on in the world of COD by hitting that subscribe button and turning on those post notifications. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.